Okay, we're up to Siman Yudalad. Just finishing off, it's a short one today. Halacha Dalad and Hey. Says the Mechaba in Sif Dalad. Siman Yudalad, Sif Dalad. Mutza little Tallis chaveiro ulevarech aleho. What if you go to shul and you forget, hey, I didn't bring my Tallis? Are you allowed to borrow a Tallis without rishus? So says the Mechaba, Mutza little Tallis chaveiro ulevarech aleho. You are allowed to take your friend's Tallis, another person's Tallis, and to make a bracha on it. So long as you return it properly, that is, you fold it and you give it back to him. And the same is true with tefillin. If you go to shul, you forget your tefillin, and you want to borrow a pair that is there, you're allowed to do it. But you're not allowed to learn from your friend's sefarim below daito without your friend's knowledge. The concern is with sefarim, in contrast to a talis or tefillin, you might ruin them through the very learning itself. Let's take a look at the Mishnah Berurah. Talis chavere, pirush, sheloi medaito, that he doesn't know about it. Perhaps he's not in shul. We'll see soon, actually. Pirush sheloi medaito, he doesn't know about it. Is a gazlan. You're borrowing something without permission, you're not allowed to, you're called a gazlan. There is an assumption that this is different. Why? Because there is a presumption that people would like their property to be used for a mitzvah, and therefore we assume that the person will be very happy to lend you his talis, that you have borrowed his talis. Now, footnote number 27 in the Dirshu. Va'afilu isha. Let's say a woman, she wants to borrow a chayfet shel mitzvah, but mitzvah she'ena mechuyeves bahin, it's something which is not mechuyevin. Kosav b'shayla teshuva sigros Moshe, she'yechol lishtamish b'chafetzav shel ish below yadi asay. She also, let's say for example, it's tkiyah shofar. She's not mechuyev, but she wants to blow shofar. She can't find the shofar, she hasn't got one. She borrows a person's shofar, she sees it lying around. She can use that. Because she is being mekayim a mitzvah to some extent with that blowing of the shofar, whatever it is. Even for that, we apply the halacha of nichel leinish delivered mitzvah b'mamoneh. Okay, carrying on the Mishnah Berurah. V'davka ba'akroi. This whole concept of borrowing a friend's talis without his knowledge only works on an occasional basis. But on a regular basis, day in, day out, that would not be allowed. Now, what is the makar for that? If you look at number 28, makar din zeh hu habach. V'shom kosov shemut lo niach tefillin shel chaveru dafka ba'akroi, avol b'chol yom osa. But every day is not allowed. V'noita lulav shel chaveru, kosov Mishnah Berurah, the dafka pamachas. How often can you take the person's lulav? One time, he says. Avol kol shivas hayomim yitochet shemakbed v'asa. But to borrow it throughout the whole of Yontov, he says presumably he will be makbed and it would be asa. Okay, carrying on. Va'afilu ba'akroi dafka ba'isa mokum. And not only is it ba'akroi, it's got to be occasional use. It's got to be only in that place. But to take it out from the guy's house, to take it to shul, or from shul to another shul or something, then you can't do that. Because maybe the owner will be particular about it, and therefore the assumption, the nichele, does not apply, and therefore we're back to square one, and it's shel shlemedas, and you're a gazlan. Says for Dirshu note 29, what if the talis is in the guy's box in his shul? It's in a sort of a locked away place. Then in that situation, you haven't got the assumption, you haven't got the nichele, because the guy's locked it away, which suggests that he doesn't want anybody to use it. Unless you know, biro, certainly, that the bailim are happy with it, then you can't take it. Okay. Let's carry on the Mishnah Berurah. Another rule, another condition is that if the owners are in the shul, you can't rely on the assumption. You have to go over to the owners and say, can I please borrow your talis, your tefillin, or whatever it is. And you shouldn't be somech on the chazaka of nichele leinish when you can verify it easily. And certainly if you know there's makbet. Ulevorech oleha, and you're allowed to make a bracha on it. Ein b'mogen Avram, v'ayin b'derech Chaim shekosav d'yoseh tov sheyichav lo niknas v'leivorech. They both say that better to have in mind not to be kona and not to make the bracha on it. Okay. Sheyikapelo, so that you fold it and put it back. Another condition, you fold it, the talis, and you put it back as you found it. K'kfila harishon, like the first folding, like you found it. On Shabbos you fold it a little bit differently. The Magen Avraham says actually we're mekel, you don't have to fold it at all on Shabbos because of the problems of folding talisim on Shabbos. Tes Zayin below daitoi. This is going on. Tez Zayin is going on the Ramah. Aval also lilmoitz misfarim shechaver below midaito. Below daito. You're not allowed to borrow, in contrast to talis and tefillin, which you can borrow shalom midaito with the conditions which we just said. However, sefer is different, and you cannot borrow that unless he has his intention, he has his permission. Below daito. Afilu b'kroi ba'alma, even for occasional use. The concern is you're going to be learning properly and with hasmada, and you're going to be using it so much that maybe the pages will tear. And he says people have the minhag, they take a machzah or a siddur from the shul. I don't know the heter, because the Ramah says you can't take Sfarim, you can't borrow Sfarim without the owner's permission, because we're worried you may come to break them, to tear them, to Maishno Siddur Misfarim. I have seen the contemporary poskim, I think it was Rebelsky, the contemporary poskim say that nowadays, since the time of the Mishnah Berurah, the law has changed a little bit, because the Metzias has changed, because Sfarim are now, Baruch Hashem, so prevalent that they're not considered expensive, they're not considered rare, and therefore to use Sfarim perhaps might be different. Another question is using somebody else's shtender in shul. There is a Torah anytime shir specifically on this point, and the upshot is that it's basically mutter, because the presumption in that if a person leaves a standing shtender in shul, that other people will use it, and also the whole point is that it's not going to be ruined in any way or destroyed, and through using somebody else's shtender is it's sturdy, and it's going to it's not going to deteriorate in any way. Let's just finish off. Halacha hey, Tallis shall shutfin, a talis which belongs to partners. Chayeves betzitzis. So Reuven and Shimon own a talis together, even though they don't own it fully. It is chayeves betzitzis. Tichsiv al kanfei bigdeihem. It's the ribuy in the pasuk. Shall shutfin. Says the Mishnah Berurah in Sifkot Yud Zayin. The talis shall shutfus nochrim Yisrael. What if the partnership is not two Jewish people? That's straightforward, that it's chayeves betzitzis. But what if the two partners, one is Jewish and one is not Jewish? Or ish v'isha, one is a man, one is a woman. Chayeves betzitzis v'lo yivorech aleha. It's chayev and tzitzis, but you don't make a bracha on it. Artzas Chaim, that's the quoting the Artzas Chaim. V'lo domestic Eliezer ayin shom. Not like the ruling of the domestic Eliezer. Lastly, Yudches chayeves. It's chayev is in a bracha. V'ayri shechaveru meratze she'ele chaver boy. That's talking about where one partner is happy that the other partner is using it. For hubali sitzis, because he hasn't got sitzis, so he's very happy for his partner to use this sitzis, to use the talis. Chayev lasos lo b'sitzis, and therefore it's chayev to make a sitzis on it. Avol shutfin v'yesh bo sitzis, but if the other shutfin, the other shutf has sitzis, v'echod makbid al chaver shelo yelech boy, and one of the partners is makbid that his partner does not use it. Even though, let's say, they own 50% of this beged, and 50% is big enough that it's chayiv and sitzis as well. If he wears it begzeila against his shutuf's consent, and he makes a bracha, it was a bracha not only levatala, that it's a bracha which is over below sissa, saying the Shem Hashem without a reason. Because of this beggar, two sitzes belong to him, and two sitzes on the other two corners don't belong to him. And therefore, you're making a bracha on a beggar effectively, which has got two sitzes which belong to you. And therefore, you have been over lo sissa. For cholshkenim ein bar dayin sitzis, and certainly if there's no sitzis, they are on them anyway. And therefore, if Rahman Islan, a parent, a father passes away, and it's the children are Yerush, Yarsh and this Tallis, or Shari Achim Makbidin Alav, and some of the brothers are Makbid, Yesh lizosh levorech oleha olav achi yispashru beinehem, that one of the brothers who takes the talis should not make a bracha on that talis until they agree between themselves who it belongs to, or they get rishus, etc. Okay, that is the end of Siman Yud Dalet.